What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of ECAST The Experience 2026. We are here in the studios once again on part 2. This is going to be the second episode of part 2, so basically part 5, I guess, because it's 5 episodes already this year. But anyways, we are here. We gathered with a friend this time. I mean, I know him, but I don't really fully know him yet. It's kind of one of those partial. We've been sharing stage and sharing some practices and music stuff
for sharing moments.
About a minute now. It's probably like a year or two.
Yeah, I would say about a year, going on a year and a half.
Well, y'all hearing his voice now, so welcome straight from Buffalo, New York, living in Monterey, RJ. Let's go.
Hello. What's up, Manny? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, bro.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Good to be here.
Shoot, I'm excited to see you here with a hot chair.
Yeah, dude. I've seen this room in the videos, and it's cool to like be in the space doing the thing, man. I hope you're well, and this is.
I'm doing great, bro.
Awesome.
I know you just got out of the gig. For how they go?
I did, yeah. It was a simple winery gig. I play a lot of wineries, so yeah, it was easy going. Played outside. It was really nice,
That's dope, bro. Honestly, I'm excited that you're here, bro, because like I was saying, we've been kind of like sharing the stage and practices and ideas and I don't know. It's kind of like I did an interview with Keto, so I was like, I should interview everybody in the band.
Hell yeah, man.
And I'm talking about the East Lake Boys band, or Project V, they call it.
It has many names.
It has many names right now. Danny V's live band and all the musicians in them, because they're such great musicians that I mean, they made my job so much easier. I don't have to say a lot. They just we just kind of like the chemistry's there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's I've been playing in bands since I was like probably 12, you know what I mean? So, and I feel like, with that, I've played with a lot of different musicians, and I think that chemistry is one of those things where, at least like I definitely know and feel like it's an important thing to have, like, you know what I mean? Not just as players in a room, but also like people in a room too, you know what I mean? Like chemistry as people. And yeah, I mean, like so with that being said, I try to invest in that, you know what I mean? Consciously or subconsciously, like if I'm going to be in a project, like that's something that
Man, that's so great, bro. Honestly, I'm excited. I'm glad to actually dab in a little bit more and get to know you a little bit more. And with that being said, let's go into the meat and potatoes, because this guy it's nothing but a virtuoso, if you guys don't know, because he sings, he plays saxophone, he plays guitars, he plays bass, he's an engineer, he does a lot of things, kind of similar like me, but he does still more. So let's take it back, man. Who is RJ, man?
Yeah, so I started off, funny enough, as a saxophone player, and just like the school band, when you're in 3rd grade, basically, you pick an instrument, and basically, I remember this like clear as day. It's really funny. So you actually pick 3 instruments. You pick 3 that you're gonna like try out on, right? And it's my 3 were saxophone, trombone, and trumpet, because they didn't offer like the guitar, or anything like that, in school band. So yeah, basically I remember going into the room, and basically, the audition was like, there was really no audition. They basically like handed you a saxophone mouthpiece with a neck. They were like, okay, blow into this, and then yeah, exactly, right, here's a trumpet mouthpiece, blow into this, trombone mouthpiece. And they were like, okay, which one do you want to play? And for me, it was the saxophone instantly, you know what I mean? Like I just kind of like it, it looked the coolest. It was kind of the shiniest. So I was like, okay, this is the one that I want to play.
It sounded the sexier.
Yeah.
Sexiest.
Yeah.
Well, not maybe at that moment.
Yeah, not at that moment. It took years.
That moment it sounded like a Canadian geese.
Oh yeah, dude. And it was funny because like honestly, like and I had my grandfather's brother played the sax.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't super, like, we weren't really close to him, but like it was kind of lore within my family where I would like see pictures of him with a saxophone. And so it was one of those things where like maybe subconsciously in my mind, I was like, oh, like I should play the sax too, So But
that's awesome.
Yeah, pretty much started playing the saxophone, and honestly, like, kind of hated it, you know? I mean, like, in seventh grade,
I feel you.
I was probably 7 years old, right? So it was third grade. I was probably 7 years old, 7, 8. So it was like, man, it was one of those things where I don't think many 7-year-old kids want to play like Bach chorales in the school band. You know what I mean? So, but it was one of those things, man, where like by the time I had gotten to 6th grade, I had made the switch from alto saxophone to tenor saxophone. And like my little kid brain, like, I was like, bigger's better. The tenor saxophone is bigger than the alto saxophone. And I was like, I want to play the bigger sax. So I made the switch, and it was kind of funny because I was the only one, like there were a bunch of alto saxophone players, and then I made the switch and I was like the only tenor. So it was kind of cool to stand out in that way. And then, I forget exactly why I got into private lessons outside of school, but I got involved with private lessons with an awesome teacher called Joe Bernard. And like ever since I started doing that, like he really turned me on to jazz music, so that like, because basically he was like, that was maybe, the nice thing about private lessons is like outside of the school band, the teachers are great. I haven't had a bad band teacher in my life, but like they have a program to run.
Right.
And it kind of has to,
like a structure.
Yeah, it has to be all encompassing. We can't just like play whatever.
Right.
Right. When you've got 60 kids in a band. But when you're in a private lesson and it's one-on-one, and the teacher asks you, what do you want to play? Like that was the first time I had ever kind of had that.
John Coltrane.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't even know it at the time, but I was like, I'm into rock music, and I'm into, I like heavier, and I like more driven music. I don't really like classical saxophone, but yeah, so he kind of turned me on to the jazz stuff, and like that was probably 6th grade when I started taking lessons with Joe, and it was like ever since then it was like boom, like I kind of just like something in my brain clicked, and it was just like I started really kind of going after trying to be good. And at the same time, I think like, I started as a 7-year-old, and now I'm kind of like 12, 11, 12 in this timeline. Right. So it's like, I've gained more consciousness of the world. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a pretty hefty amount of years, honestly. And I was a music teacher too. So you are a teacher too. So you kind of like know like when it is exactly after that consistent lesson and going back and forth with your students about that time. If the student is dedicated right enough, and you notice what's going to be the difference. But it's about that time. It takes about a good 5 to 6 years.
Oh yeah. And you have to be invested too. Like I think that, and I mean, the biggest thing for me was, simply the question of like, what do you want to play? You know what I mean? Like that was such a simple thing, but it really kind of just, I mean, that was probably the first time I had been asked that. And, and like I was fortunate enough to attend a school system where, we had wind ensembles, 2 concert orchestras, 2 symphonic bands.
I don't think you see that like here in California specifically.
Yeah.
And I have
it's rough.
The ones that I've heard is rough. People,
dude, it's tough.
People, please do something. Like California needs it's crazy because it's one of those contradictions. Like California is so musically rich. It has so much history in music. But nowadays, the school system doesn't see it that way anymore. Like, for me, I just actually found out that there's in the valley here in Salinas, the Gonzalez High School. The Gonzalez High School's been in competitions, like all nationwide, and they have a good band.
Hell yeah.
I haven't heard them, but apparently, in order to be in competition, you got to be really good.
Dude, and that's honestly like, if it wasn't for that stuff, I mean, maybe I would have found music, because I always like, ever since I was probably 7 or 8 years old, right? I wanted to play the saxophone, but I really wanted to play the guitar, right? That was the thing. But they didn't offer it in the school band, right? This is kind of a key point. But it's like, maybe I would have found music if they didn't have music in the schools, because like I said, I wanted to play the guitar. But basically my point that I'm getting at is pursuing the saxophone through the school system, right, and getting into jazz allowed me to gain enough just like basic music knowledge, right? I wound up teaching myself how to play the guitar when I was in like 7th and 8th grade.
Wow, really?
I mean, yeah, basically like, you know, my parents were like, we can't put you in sax and guitar lessons, but you know, we can get you a guitar and you can kind of maybe like mess around with it, right? So yeah, that was really all I needed.
So you basically self-taught yourself on the guitar.
Pretty much, yeah.
What the hell? Like that. And I mean that, what the hell? Because if you guys seen this guy play guitar, it's crazy. You would think that I thought honestly that was your main instrument.
Yeah, I mean, I can't take too much credit because I've had amazing friends along the way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you learn something from everybody. But yeah, I mean, initially, basically, like I got my first guitar Christmas morning when I was in like 7th grade. So at this point, like, you know, I was already like playing the saxophone and kind of like, you know, I had established myself as like a good for a middle schooler player kind of vibe. But yeah, you know, I really wanted to play the guitar. And it's funny because we had an acoustic guitar at my house growing up. And man, I tried to play the guitar so many times. Like I would get a guitar book and I would be like, this is a G. And, you know, and it was like, man, there were so many attempts at trying to play the guitar. And I quit so many times, like 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
That's how I feel with piano.
Yeah. Like I couldn't, I just would quit, dude. And it was, you know, and then my parents got me an electric guitar and that like changed everything because I really wanted to play the electric guitar. And that combined with the fact, like, I think the real gasoline on the fire was when I learned, you know, because me being like the sax player, I was trying to read guitar music, right?
Okay.
Which is like, if you don't know, like guitar music, like
you got to
there'll be like 6 notes stacked up, and you know I'm used to saxophone, which is 1 note, right? You know, a monophonic 1 note instrument. Yeah. You know, now I'm looking at guitar music where it's like I can't, you know, and it goes way below the so I'm like looking at the chords and you know, like I'm like, man, I don't even know how to read this. So that was a big barrier. And then I had a friend in middle school who basically was like, dude, have you ever heard of tabs? Like you know, you've never heard of and I was like, no, what is this? And he was like, tabs. Okay. It's just, and he wrote out Smoke on the Water. And it was so funny because I remember he wrote it out and he handed me the paper and like I remember looking at it and I remember looking at the tabs.
Oh,
and
this makes sense.
It made I could literally hear it in my head. I was like, I can hear this. Like I can and that was really kind of a light bulb moment because I was like, man, like this is like reading words on a page, you know, when you know the words, right? So
exactly.
It was one of those things where, like learning tabs like really kind of like took me.
That's
so
funny,
far.
Bro, because you know how I really actually started learning music was through tabs.
Yeah, dude,
and
great.
They use it was a mix of tabs and I don't know if you've ever heard of the Suzuki system.
The Suzuki, no.
So the Suzuki system is a color-based system. So let's say C is color red.
Okay, sure.
D is color orange. E is color yellow. So on and so forth, right?
Sure.
And they put the tabs, right? And they also put colors.
Wow.
And the instrument, they used to punch hole the construction paper colors.
Oh, sure.
And glue them on the fret.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I started to learn. And after that, they transitioned colored and music notation.
Yeah.
And then until your brain start referencing the notation with the color, and then you take the colors away, then you follow the notation.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah. No, I mean,
it's a crazy system.
Yeah.
It works.
I guess what I mean is it's crazy how the brain, like, you know what I mean?
Assimilates things.
How it looks for patterns and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like,
but I one thing is like when I got older, it was a little harder because I was trying to follow music mathematically and it was getting complicated for me. Yeah. Instead of just following music and not make it so scientifically correct. Just follow the tempo, follow the rhythm and stuff. Yeah. I didn't kind of like get adjusted until after when I kind of was in late middle school, high school. Yeah. It's funny you bring this up because like, you know, throughout middle school and throughout high school, really, like I was a very much like I was an on the paper player, you know what I mean? Meaning like, you know, I could read, like I was sight reading level 6
tenor sax jazz solos, which is like, level 6 would be like the highest level difficulty, right? And like we would just be like, me and my high school teacher, Mr. Shaw and Mr. Macon, we would just like, okay, let's read this one today. We would just like, we would sight read them, right? So, and I don't mean perfect sight reading, but we'd be able to sight read them at a moderate tempo,
If you don't know what sight reading is, basically it's like reading a book at the first time. Like if you don't know how to read, you're going to stumble across that reading. But for everybody that knows music, sight reading at first sight is like, you need to be really good.
Oh yeah. So I used to be really good at that. Just like sight read, we would sight read it in the lesson. But I guess my point is like, I was so on the paper because like when it would come time to like improvise and take solo and like get off the paper, and really kind of get into the music, that was like, I was like, oh, like, what do I do? You know what I mean? It was kind of
how was that experience? Because to me, I feel like improvising came before, I think I developed my ear faster than I did my reading skills.
Yeah.
It's kind of backwards.
Dude, I mean, honestly, like, I guess the best way I could probably describe it is I just think I was always kind of a anxious kid that was like, why is this good? Like, why is this the way that it is? You know what I mean? Like, and it was funny because like, I probably could have understood the why had I done more exploring as a kid, right? Like exploring on the instrument, but I was just like, I wanted someone to tell me the why, right? And that was like, I spent many of my early years like wanting teachers to tell me like why this chord sounds good or is good, like, but it was one of those things where it's like, when you really get into it, it's like, it's kind of not really a question that you can answer, especially like explain to a kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so, but yeah.
Why a tritone is a
yeah. Well, it wasn't until college. Like, honestly, when I got to college, it was such a different experience because I didn't go to like, I kind of had a whole thing. Long story short, like I auditioned for SUNY Fredonia, but I auditioned on their final day for auditions.
Oh.
And basically they were like, I get into the room and I play my solo and the guy was like, yeah, I mean, you sound good, but we've accepted everybody that we're going to accept for this program this year. So like kind of just on deaf ears, right? Yeah. He kind of just like, yeah. So like as a 17-year-old kid, I was like kind of shattered, right? So I was like, all right, well, we're not going to Fredonia, but I got into Villa Maria, which is like a small private Catholic school on the east side of Buffalo. And man, like that school is kind of funny because it's, when I was there, I would say it was like the golden years of that school. Cause like, man, like any college that you go to, it really matters the faculty that's there. Like that's the thing. Like,
definitely.
Like your school is only going to be as good as the faculty and the resources. And, Villa's resources weren't very good at that time. But their faculty was amazing. You know what I mean? Like John Bacon, who was a doctor in music, you know what I mean? Dr. John Bacon. He was like the head of the jazz professor. Dude, it's amazing. Yeah. He was the head of the jazz program for a minute. I studied with Dave Chavone, who was my high school private lessons instructor. And he's one of the best tenor saxophone players in New York for sure. You know what I mean? Wow. Like he's the real, that just the list goes on. But basically my point is when I got to college, it's a small private school. We didn't have a wind ensemble. We didn't have a jazz band like that. We had a jazz combo, right? So I'm going from like a 16-piece jazz ensemble where you're reading music on a page to now it's like, okay, well, here's a real book and here's a head, right? Here's the melody and here's the chords and we're going to play this song. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, like, well, what happens when we get to the bottom of the page? When you go back to the top of the page, and it's one of those things where, the music in a context like that, like you're not really reading the music. You're kind of, the piece of paper is more of a reference as opposed to like, we are reading this, you know what I mean? Whereas like I was used to the world of like, these are the notes that we're going to play and the dynamics are written in. And, if we're going to rest here, it's going to be like that. But in this world, it's so much more about, do you feel like you should be playing right? Do you feel like you should be making noise right now? If you feel that, make some, play something. Play what? I don't know. Play what you're feeling, right? So it was one of those things where that was so vastly different. And, that kind of like culture shock to me was like really good, because it was exactly what I needed at that time to kind of get off the paper and just really like into the room with other musicians. And it just really taught me to just be listening, you know what I mean? And develop an instinct and trust that instinct, you know what I mean? And when you really get good at it, like you can tune into other people's you know what I mean? Like, you know, you can start to feel when other people are kind of, you know, someone's going to take the lead, right? And you can feel that instinctually and you follow, right? You know, or if you want to pull back against it, you know what I mean? Like you can kind of, you know,
bro, that's the best way that I've heard at least I could not express that in a better way, bro, honestly, because I played in quartets, in big groups, big bands, small bands, and it felt like that. In the end, it was like, they want you to know the structure of everything, right? Yeah. But in the end, it's how you actually feel, especially when I was in college too. I was in a small, like they call it conjuntos, and there's like, I don't know, probably like, 10, 15 players in it, which is not really a lot. Yeah. You know, when you come to see it, half of them are playing the same instrument, following through with some sheet or some arrangement, but then everything else was about feel. Yeah. You know? Yeah, and you have to, and honestly, it's like feel and trust. Because a big thing is like, you know, one of the big things that you see with like kind of musicians starting out, like when they're jamming, is like, you know, they might establish a groove, right? But like you start to get to the point where everybody's looking around where it's like, all right, where are we going next, right? It's like, when are we ending, right? That kind of thing. And it's like, you know, when you really have that trust, like, you know, in my experience, what that looks like is that, you know, that's like, you know, the drummer kind of doing a thing and slowing down and bringing the band with them. You know what I mean? Right. You know, there's, you know, it's one of those things where it's never really the same person who takes the lead. But the thing is when you have that trust and somebody takes the lead, there's that trust. Like, okay, I'll follow you into this next thing that we're going into, whether we're ending a song or we're going into a different scene change of the song. You know what I mean? Like changing the instrumentation, the groove, changing the vibe. But yeah, really just feel and trust, man. That's like, you really can't get that on a piece of paper per se. You know what I mean? Right. Like, or it's hard to. It's hard to develop that. It's an amazing. This is great, bro. Thank you so much for sharing all this stuff because it gets me a better perspective of who you are as a musician as well. You know, I mean, you're a great dude. Shit, we've had good conversations and stuff, but the way that you're describing things is like, wow. It's like I'm feeling that exact thing, but everybody knows that English is my second language, so wepa. You know,
Wepa, dude, hell yeah, Wepa.
He knows about that. Yes. New Yorker here.
Yes. So shout out Eric and Brian DeJesus.
Yes. You know, expressing it the way that you are doing it, bro, gives me a better open perspective of how to kind of like approach music and kind of like better understand myself as well. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like I've been feeling this, but I don't get to like have these conversations with a lot of people, especially not like with full-blown musicians. I mean, everybody, artists, it's not equal musicians. If you guys don't know, and it's, you know, everybody got their own job, which is great, you know, but artists is not equal musicians. It's total different thing.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe a big key difference, because it's not like one is maybe easier or better, right? But the artist, like something that I think is really on the artist's mind, because it's on my mind whenever I'm like doing things as an artist, right? But the presentation is so important, right? Like how something is presented, how it's packaged, right? It's like, you know, think of when you buy an iPhone and it comes in the nice custom fitted box, and you know what I mean? And it's like airtight and you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And it's like, that's, you know, so an artist is really focused on that. Whereas a musician is too, but what does that look like, right? For an artist, that might look like a shiny jacket, right? And for a musician, that might look like running your scales 100 times. Yeah. So it's one of those
chord progressions.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where I think, we definitely deal with different things, and you know, there are times to worry about what you're wearing, and there are times to worry about what you're playing too. You know?
Exactly, man. This, bro, what an amazing combo, bro. Honestly, we've gone kind of like almost through the whole first part, but I mean, I didn't have to. This is the best interview. I didn't have to talk. I love it.
That's code for rambling. You
know? No. I some, you know, in respect to everybody, but sometimes I gotta kind of like, because everybody's different, you know,
sure,
so
yeah,
it's hard to get words out of people.
Sometimes you got to extract. Yeah, I feel
so
that,
I like it. I like this. So, but let's jump a little bit more into your professional. Now you're an adult.
Yeah.
Your professional career, because I know you are also an Evertune artist.
Yeah.
And you've toured with bands. You had your own band as well. You also are an engineer at Panda Studios.
Oh yeah, yeah. So man, honestly, like it's kind of crazy because like, you know, you list these things off and it's like, you know, if it's one of those things where like mentally, if I was reading my own accolades, but you know, pretending they were somebody else, you know, I'd be like that's a pretty cool guy. But I don't.
Bro.
You know, I don't. You know, sometimes you don't feel that. You know, so it's. But basically, I would say, yeah. So man, I was in Buffalo, like so. I graduate college, right? And you know, now what? I have a 4-year music degree, and nobody, you know, there are no jobs where you go at the music factory to go get the, you know what I mean, to go work 9 to 5 at the music factory, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, basically out of college, I started working at Guitar Center, and my goal was one thing. I was like,
GC.
Yeah, literally. I had pretty much one goal, and that was build a studio. Like that was where I was at. I was 21 when I graduated, and I was in a band at the time. I was in a band called Rescue Dawn, which later transitioned to a band called Fernway. But basically, yeah, I mean, like my 2 goals at that period of my life was like grow the band, build the studio, and getting that job at Guitar Center. Like I will never forget the first time I got paid. Like it was like a boomerang because I got paid and it just went right back into the cash register. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it was just like, cool, I got mics now, you know, and it's like, and it happened like that, like probably for at least 2 years, man. You know, I was, you know, 21, living at home with my parents, like very little responsibility. You know what I mean? Like I had my own little bills and stuff, but it was like I mean,
you treated it as it was a job.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was very much like my goal was like I was like I'm making this money, and like this isn't me trying to like climb the Guitar Center corporate ladder. Like
reinvestment in yourself.
I'm a part-time salesman because I want to go on tour. Like at this time of my life, we were touring like 2-3 times a year.
Oh shoot, really?
Yeah. Yeah, and all self-booked, like DIY booked from our old guitar player Jonah.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, but basically, yeah. So like at this time in my life, the whole thing was like working to pretty much buy studio gear and or go on tour, you know.
Yeah.
And that was probably like 2016. I would say all the way up until 2020. Like COVID was like a very weird thing, but basically, yeah, man. So,
how was the tour life, man?
Yeah, dude. You know, it honestly, you know, ups and downs, man. I really like.
Do you guys shove yourself in a minivan or something?
Oh, dude, yeah, we had a van. I have some stories, dude. So I think the craziest story I ever have. This one's always fun. So we had our entire van and trailer stolen, and then we got it back, all within 12 hours.
What the heck,
dude? Get ready for this. All right. So this was in January of 2020, right before the world shuts down. So this is like, so we were doing a weekender. If you don't know what a weekender is, it's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's like a regional little tour, right? So basically you hit towns that are a couple hours away, right? You're not trying to drive 50 hours, right? You go 3 hours, you drive another 2 hours, you drive another hour, and then you drive 3 hours home. And that's the whole weekender, right? So we were obviously a Buffalo-based band at the time. And the original route was Cleveland, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Akron, Ohio, Cleveland, right? So like basically Cleveland, Ann Arbor, Cleveland, right? Our Ann Arbor show fell through, right? Which basically means like, I forget if it was the venue or the bands, but basically like when a show falls through, it's just like, it's not going to happen, right? So now we're kind of like we're like driving to Michigan and we're like, man, like, you know, when you're on tour and you're looking for that, like you have 2 choices. You can either not play or start posting on the internet and see if anybody has anywhere that you can pull up to.
Right.
So we're posting, and finally we get a bite. We have a homie who's like, yo, I have a show in Detroit that you can hop on. And we're like, okay, cool. We've never been to Detroit. Like, or maybe we've been once, but like, whatever, we'll go back.
Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit. Right. So
if you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So we pull up and I'm like, okay, Detroit. all right, you're a lot like Buffalo. You got the bricks, you got the kind of, you know what I mean? You got the bricks and the grits, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, but basically, you know, so we pull up to the venue. It was, I think, PJ's Lager House. And yeah, dude, it was an awesome venue, like record store in the basement. Like really, it was an amazing show. Like there were people there. And like, honestly, for being thrown on last minute, I was like, this is awesome, right? So we play we load all of our gear, and that's the number one thing I do always on tour. We get to the venue, and I get my gear into that venue. Like, I do not play around. I never did play around, but especially after this, like we had all of our gear in the venue. So we get done playing, and I'm like, cool, like, let me go get the van. I'll pull it around. We were the last band, so I was like, pull it around, like, the night's over. So I go out into the back of we go to the parking lot, right, where I parked the van, and this is a big blue, like, picture 90s conversion camper van with a white trailer. Like, you're not missing this. Like, it's a blue 90s van with a big white trailer. And we're like, dude, I'm looking and I'm like, huh, van, I'm like, did somebody move the van? So I walk to the front of the building, no van. So I go inside and I'm like, did one of you guys move our van? You guys
had the gear though.
We had all of our we had all of our gear inside except for like a PA system and like some cables and honestly like our clothes, like a lot of personal belongings, but all the gear was inside the venue. But dude, it was me and our bass player at the time, Alec Doobie, and basically, man, we walked outside and we were like, "Where's the van?" We were like, "Did you move the van?" No, I didn't move the van. Did you move the van? No. We looked at each other and we went inside and basically, like, dude, nobody moved the van. Like, so, that was like...
This is some movie type shit, bro, for real.
Dude, it was... And honestly, like, it was one of those situations where, like, we told the bar... We were like, hey, like, we got to call the cops. Like, we think someone stole our car. And they were like, oh... Like, they weren't surprised at all. They weren't surprised at all. They were like, oh, my God, someone stole your car? They were like, oh.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, yeah. So, yeah, so that was kind of like... I was like, oh my God. So basically, yeah, we didn't leave. Man, long story short, basically, our friend Jake, the guy who got us on the show, he was so fortunate to let us crash at his house. We had the police at the venue. They took our report. They were kind of lackadaisical. They didn't give us a police number, report, anything. Yeah, right. So like, gosh. So they didn't really, who even knows what they wrote down? They might have just drawn a picture of us or something. But yeah, basically, so we get back to our friend's house and, I make a Walmart run because like they stole our bags and everything. Like, and at this point, crazy. The van was gone. We were like, we don't have anything. We just have our gear. And fortunately, like, he made 2 trips, right, with his minivan. He brought half the band and the gear and then the other half of the band and more gear to his house from the venue. So basically we're at this kid's house. I get back from Walmart. It's like 5:36 in the morning and I'm shot, dude. I'm mentally shot. And I'm like typing a Facebook post to schedule to go live at like 10 to be like, hey guys, we're not coming to our next show because our van is stolen. Here's a GoFundMe basically. And man, post schedule, I pass out. And then I wake up, my phone is going crazy at like 11 a.m., 10:30, 11 a.m., right? So the post was live. My phone is going crazy, dude. So 2 things had happened. Number 1, the post had gone kind of viral. Like it got like 1,000 shares or something like that. Like it was, when somebody's stuff gets stolen, they, you share it around, you be a good homie. But the post was going viral. So people were like donating money. And then the owner of the venue's calling me and he's like, hey, like, is this your van? Like sending me pictures of our van, like abandoned on the side of the road. And I'm like, that's totally our van. So basically like these guys got into our van, drove it like 2 or 3 blocks, took all the things inside the van, busted our lock, took our speakers and then just left it. Right. Which is like, honestly, best case scenario, because I figured if we were going to see that thing again, it would be on cinder blocks, dude, with the tires and the engine going. And
world.
So, dude, then we call the cops and we're like, hey, like, we just reported this van stolen last night. Can we get a police escort to go get it? And they were like, no.
What?
They were like, no. So I was like, oh my God. Like, so anyways.
Are you kidding me?
Dude, they said no. So literally we're like, dude, we're going to get the fucking van. So like literally like
what the hell?
Me, Doobie, and it had to have been Jake because he drove us there. And then I think they had a friend because there were definitely 2 cars. Like we had a car drive by to make sure that there weren't like people hanging out. You know what I mean? Like, and then dog, we pulled up to the van. We got in that shit.
And roll out.
And we rolled away, dude. They pulled the ignition column out, so we had to start it with a screwdriver, but we got in it, we started it, and we drove away. We started that shit with a screwdriver, and we drove away, dude.
Movie. This is a freaking movie, bro.
It was pretty crazy, dude.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard. I mean, I've heard some crazy stories and stuff, but yeah. I mean, anything is valid in a freaking tour. When you tour, everything goes. It's crazy,
dude. That was the. I mean, yeah, dude. Like honestly, like we've ran into some sketch people. We've played at some sketchy places, but man, like, the thing is we made it out good, dude. Like nobody got hurt. I think the most valuable thing we lost was like, I think somebody lost a laptop, but like, you know, like when everything was said and done, dude, like little insurance claim, little insurance money, little Guitar Center run.
And we're back in business.
I'm back on the road, you know?
Damn, bro. That teaches you a whole lot. Dude. A whole lot.
Like, and I will tell you this, man, like, it just all ties back to just the perseverance of, like, you know, like, this, like, yeah, dude, like, you know, like, when I hear people being like, oh, my song only has 1,000 streams, or, you know, like, when they get down on themselves like this, I'm like, dude, like, you kind of have to, you know, and that's just one tour story that I have. I have others too. Like I have others that are, you know, that's the craziest one. But man, like the one lesson I've learned from touring is just like, shit is going to hit the fan.
It's gonna happen.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? Because you're driving around the United States of America in vans from the 90s. You know? That shit's gonna break down.
Freaking Rapture or something.
Oh, dude, you might as well take a bike. You know what I mean? Like that, you know, between if it's not the tolls that's gonna get you, it's gonna be the gas. If it's not the gas, it's your radiator.
Imagine today's gas, bro. Today's gas is insane.
Oh, dude, and California doesn't help itself with the prices.
No, California doesn't help itself whatsoever, bro.
No, man.
Bro, that's awesome, man. You see people trying to learn from the other guys' experience because this is crazy,
dude.
I'm glad that you're sharing this stuff, man. Tell us a little bit more. How do you ended up becoming an engineer at Panda Studios, man?
Yeah, dude. So this is a funny story because this again like goes back to perseverance. So I start my recording studio at 22. I'm basically recording bands. Well, I mean, it started when I was maybe 20, right? But I'm recording bands in my parents' basement, right? Like that's where it started, dude. That's where my band practiced. That's where the drum set was. That's where my mic stands and mics were, right? That's where I lived. So it was, you know, my amazing parents, super supportive, allowed me to have bands come into our basement and make noise for 8 hours a day. So basically that's kind of where I got my engineering start. And then, you know, fast forward a couple years, my dad had some health problems. So basically, you know, to put it in plain English, it was like no more loud noises at the house, right? So he had a building that he owns where he runs his construction company. So I was like, well, Dad, like, what if we like, you know, what if I set up a situation where I can throw you some bones or whatever? And he was like, no, just take your stuff down there. Keep playing music. So he just was like very supportive. Just let us take our stuff down there.
Nice.
And basically like it was pretty much a 2-story townhouse, right? So this is where I built my studio for 8 years, Skyway Studios, in my dad's townhouse connected to his construction business. And basically the reason I bring this up, man, is because, you know, Sam Pura and the Panda Studios, like, you know, I was so influenced by like, you know, the Story So Far records that Sam did and the 100th records and, you know, the Dangerous Summer. And like, it was one of those things where like, you know, as a kid, I always dreamed of going to California and, you know, it was always the dream, dude, go play music and be a musician and a rock star in California. Right. So, and, you know, like, and I hear these records coming out of the Panda Studios and it's like, you know, I was very aware of who Sam was and is and the work that he was doing. And, you know, it was one of those things where like, you know, if I had a nickel for every time I had a band come into my studio and be like, we want our guitars to sound like The Story So Far, you know, which is a record, which is a band that Sam was producing at those times. It's like, man, I was constantly referencing his records and the work coming out of that studio. And, you know, so basically fast forward, right? So I'm at my studio for 8 years, and, you know, towards the last couple of years before I moved to California, I was in another space called Quiet Country Audio, right? So that was like an even bigger space. And then basically, like, the reason that we moved to California, you know, I was kind of ready for that change. I felt like I had kind of reached a little bit of a proverbial ceiling. And I was like, okay, like, I've been recording in Buffalo for 8 years. I have 2 awesome studio spaces. Like, this is amazing. I'm very grateful for all this, but like, I want to push this for, like, how far can we go with this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, what, like I said, the dream was always to go to California. You know, I almost moved to Nashville when I was 23, but then I decided not to, because I was like, let's invest in the studio. Like, let's keep doing what you're doing, and let's not give up, right? Let's persevere a little bit. But basically, you know, so long story short, my girlfriend gets a job opportunity. We were looking at LA, right? She gets a job opportunity in Monterey. We're like, where's Monterey? So I'm looking at the map, and I'm like, okay, it's this little peninsula. All right, what's near here? All right, Santa Cruz. Okay, and it's kind of near San Francisco. Wait a second. I think Sam's in San Francisco. So I hit up, at this time, like, me and Sam had been Instagram friends. And I hit him up, and I was like, hey, man, like, you're in Fremont? Like, I'm moving to Monterey. Like, that's kind of close, right? And I'll never forget, he like FaceTimed me on Instagram, you know what I mean? Or like he called me on Instagram. I was on tour actually. I was in New Jersey, like on somebody's couch or something. And he called me, and he's like, tell me everything. Right. So basically, like, that was the first time I had spoken to Sam, like, on the phone like that. And, you know, fast forward, we moved to California. I take the drive up to Fremont. It's about an hour and a half from my apartment to get up to his studio.
Yeah.
But, you know, in Monterey, there's not really anything like that. So I drive up, and, you know, basically, like, I tried to play it cool at first. You know, I really look up to Sam and his work. And, you know, I think he's an amazing engineer, and obviously wanted to make a good first impression. Didn't want to, like, walk in like a cool guy and be like, this is what I can do, and this is who I, you know what I mean? Like, I'm walking into his dojo, you know what I mean? Like, so, but basically, yeah, I mean, like, the way it went down is, you know, I would go basically to hang out. Just to hang out with Sam, and just to be like, hey man, like, I'm a musician, I'm an engineer, like, I want to hang out at the space. And he's super welcoming like that. Like, if you're cool and you want to hang out, his studio is pretty much the spot to hang out. You know, so, and then basically what happened one day is he was recording guitar parts, or he was producing guitar parts, but we needed to re-record guitar parts, but we couldn't, you know, the person that was playing them couldn't figure them out by ear, right? We had to listen to guitar parts and, like, basically reproduce them, right? But the person who was tracking, like, that, they were struggling with it, which, like, you know, I'm a total nerd. Like, that's like asking a leopard to run fast. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can, you know, I love ear training. Like, that's a big strength of mine. So, like, Sam was like, oh, you play guitar, right? Like, you think you could figure these out? And I was like, yeah. You know, I, again, played it cool, knowing full well, like, yes, I could figure this out, right? So it's like, you know, and then, you know, I figure him out. And I think, like, you know, basically it was just like a slow drip of just, like, introducing to the Panda team, you know, because there's Sam and there's Teresa, right? So Sam's like the guy who owns it, right? And then Teresa's the lead engineer, basically. And yeah, I would say, like, you know, really my whole goal the whole time was, like, how do I prove to these people, or, like, show my value without trying to, like,
what can I bring to the team?
Yeah, basically. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, which is one of those things where, you know, Sam's a guitar player, but, like, he, you know, to engineer and to play guitar, you got to wear 2 hats, right? So it's sometimes when you're, you know, when you have a good guitarist and you just got to engineer, or vice versa, right? If I'm just playing guitar and I have someone engineering, you can almost move quicker sometimes. And that's like, I think once me and Sam did a couple guitar sessions, you know, where he, you know, like, he had me record guitar for a couple artists that he was producing. Then it was, you know, he was really like, man, like, you're very easy to record and fun to hang out with. Keep coming to the studio. And basically, like, it was just a matter of time before, you know, I mean, he knew I was an engineer, but then it was like, well, do you think you can engineer these guitar parts? And it was like, yeah, you know, it's, you know, it's one of those things where it was really more about, like, acclimating to the way that they run their studio and to the system that they go about it. And then, yeah, basically, I would say about a year in, that's when Sam was kind of like, dude, like, we got to get you on the website. We got to get you, like, officially a part of this. Like you're like super valuable to the team, and like more people should know this,
bro.
Like, so
what the hell?
Yeah.
And congratulations,
yeah, thanks,
bro,
man. Hey,
for real, because that shows perseverance takes you places, man.
Dude, it's
like right when you feel like every time that things get harder, there's the breakthrough at the end of that time.
Well, dude,
there's always got to be a breakthrough.
It's also like, man, as a 25-year-old, like I remember like, I would get down on myself or like whatever. Like I remember looking at Panda Studios, like not only as like a engineer, but like as a band being like, man, I wish I could record here, or like, I wish I could be here. And it's like, if I like, all I got to say is that the world is small, man. And you never really know where you're going to be.
Right.
So you just you got to act like you're going, you got to act like you're going, like, and that's really what it comes down to, because, I never tried to, like, not even to brag like this, but like it was never about taking the easy way. It was always about taking the way that was gonna bring the fulfillment. Basically. You know what I mean? Like, what are we trying to do? Like, are we trying to go to the peak of this mountain? Let's go to the peak of this mountain. Let's not go to the, to the sideshow and then take a picture of the peak. Let's go stand at the top. You know what I mean? So it's, it was
so dope, bro.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? I'm so inspired by this conversation right now, bro.
Hell yeah, man.
And I'm telling you, we've been kind of like working together for about a year now, on and off, right?
At least a year, yeah.
And it's shit. This is so cool, bro. Honestly, I'm proud of you, bro.
Oh, thanks, man.
I remember when I saw the post when they put it out on the website. I was like, hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. What the heck?
Yeah, dude.
So, man, congratulations again. That's so dope, bro.
Thanks, man.
Man, but let's cross over, man. Let's cross over to the next. Damn. Wait, let me look at that, man. Okay, I'm gonna have to edit a lot, but let's cross over to part 2, man. Let's talk a little bit of mental health, man.
Okay, yeah.
How's your mental health today, man?
Oh man, it's today it's pretty good, I think. Yeah. It helps that the sun is out. It helps that I played a nice gig today, it helps I'm hanging with you and we're hanging, but yeah, dude. Yeah, today it feels pretty good.
Bro, being in on the road and doing gigs and all this stuff, cuz you're a full-time musician, full-time.
Yeah.
What are some of those pressures that you deal with, like burnouts, if you have any, or self-doubts, or what motivates you to keep on going?
Yeah, dude, honestly, it's funny because like self-doubt is really like, man, that's the one. That's the one for me. That's the big kind of Achilles heel is like, my brain is so unbelievably good. For as good as it is at music, it's even better at telling me that I can't do something, right? And I'll tell you this, man, the biggest thing that I think that I've really learned over the years, or maybe not even learned, because I'm honestly still learning, dude, like for what it's worth. But like every person that I've ever looked up to is, and I've had many great mentors in my life, you know what I mean? Like musicians, engineers, players, right? You know what I mean? Whatever it is, but, and just friends. But basically like the one thing that I've learned is that, even the most confident people can still feel those things. And I've met people that I think are brilliant, that I just, I've met people that I look at and I'm like, man, if only I could have your brain, right? And then you hear them talking, they're like, man, most of my ideas are stupid anyways. And it's like, whoa. It's like I have that thought too. And it's one of those things where I guess for me, the realization was like, damn, like if there's no beating this, right? If there's never any eradicating this thought, right? Of like, oh man, you can't do this. Okay, well then how can I use this to my advantage, right? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to sit here and be like, you can't do this. Yeah, you're probably right. I want to sit here and be like, well, let me show you why I can do this. You know what I mean? Like, so it's one of those things where like, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because that voice, the voice that keeps you down can be the voice that gives you the motivation to get up and do something, right? So, but that's kind of my coping mechanism, is just like, man, if I'm feeling like too stuck into something, or if I'm feeling in a rut, usually what that means is that I have to push beyond a boundary,
right?
And or at least that's what I've done in the past, to try to, because that's really what it is, dude. Like, you can't, what got you here isn't going to get you there, right? That's like a cliche that you'll hear.
Right.
But like, what does that mean? Well, that means like, yeah, like I've gone on tour and I've learned all these instruments and that's amazing. But if I don't pick up my sax for 6 months, I'm going to get rusty. You know what I mean?
Right.
If I don't play the guitar for 6 months, and that's happened where, you can get so into just like what you're doing and doing the same thing where you really, you hit a groove, but not in the way, I guess that's why they call it a rut, because you're kind of, a rut. If you think about a rut, it's like a ditch, dude. It's dug out and it's hard to climb out of, right? But it's like, basically what that means is you're doing the same thing over and over again.
I've been there, and I think a lot of us been there, and in many ways, like myself, like sometimes I'm like, shit, I haven't touched a guitar in how long? I haven't touched the bass in how long? Not necessarily because I didn't want to, right?
Yeah.
But because just how dude, things are sometimes,
Life, yeah. And sometimes, I mean, I'm very fortunate to have like very supportive friends. Like I think that's a big thing that is really important. And like moving to California certainly not only brought me awesome new friends, like you, Danny, Keto, all the guys in the band, right? But it's like, dude, it really shows you like who from your hometown, who are the people that keep into, who calls you, you know what I mean? Like the phone is a two-way thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially like you say, bro, like you and me we're not from here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So having people always check in on you, man, it helps.
Yeah.
It definitely helps. For me, it's my family. Oh, my family always, I'm blessed enough that my family's always been super supportive as well. And even though, and my friends, I don't kind of like trip because they're all professionals too. You know what I'm saying? So they got their own thing going on. But yeah, man, it's a very important thing to kind of like, because like, I think a while ago I told you, I was like, bro, if you're not doing anything for the holidays, come hang out here, because I know how it gets. Bro.
Yeah, I mean, dude, and I forget I think we wound up going to San Diego. Like Taylor has some family out here, like, you know what I mean? But it's like, I mean, even that, dude, it's one of those things where it's like our first Thanksgiving, like we moved pretty much in like September, right? So our first Thanksgiving was just like Costco turkey in our living room, you know what I mean? And yeah, dude, like and just calling friends on FaceTime, right? Which I'm so thankful to be able to do that. But, for as dystopian as technology can be sometimes, but it's one of those things where, man, like, it's unfortunately I think that at least, there are probably some musicians out there who just like never feel sadness or never get bent out of shape, right? But I just think the way that I've, it might be the New York gloom, right? But it's I grew up kind of as a little pessimist, right? So it's like it's one of those things where I really had to learn to be optimistic. I had to learn to kind of, I mean, yeah, dude, like, the van getting stolen on tour, like that's one, like I said, that's one story, dude. We had so many times where we would like break down in the middle of nowhere and we would drive 6-7 hours to a show and there'd be, I'll never forget, man, we played at the Poorhouse in Raleigh, North Carolina, this big venue, awesome venue. One person, dude, one homie Glenn came up to watch us. Wow. You know what I mean? And it's like,
being like resilient too, bro. That's bound. You got to be the tennis ball, bro.
Dude, I mean, and the thing is that kind of stuff really like wore on my younger self, right? There was always this sense of like, well, I'm putting in the work. Why aren't I seeing this come back? You know what I mean? Yeah. And honestly, like, the beautiful thing about life is that, or I should say the beauty is in the work, dude. Like the beauty is not only in the result. The beauty is
the time that you put in.
I got to see the country, dude, driving around in a van with my friends, like with my my literal blood brother played the drums in that band. A
lot of people wish they did that, bro. Yeah. A lot of people. Shoot, I mean, I wish I could do that. Yeah. Like when I did, and I mean, in a sense, I toured, not in the same sense like in a band, but when I was growing up, I would kind of like tour around the towns in Puerto Rico. Yeah. Puerto Rico, even though it's so small, it's also so big, because 78 towns.
Oh, wow.
And each town has its own different celebration, culture, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So
I can imagine.
You visit each festival and travel in a freaking bus.
hell yeah,
all that stuff.
I mean,
that's
that's touring. Yeah, dude. That's yeah. I mean, like it's like, and for what it's worth, I've never done like, I mean, and this is the thing, dude, is like even talking about touring is like there's the unfortunate thing, and it's unfortunate because you can spin it and make it negative, but it's like there will always be another thing, you know. Like they always say, there's a bigger fish, dude. There's always a there's always a dude who's better looking than you and he's younger too. You know what I mean? Yeah. And there's always a guitar player who's can play faster than you and he's younger. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where, you know, that really used to upset me when I was a kid, right? Because I didn't have much, you know, music was the thing that I was good at, right? So when I would encounter like a band that would just, you know, they were like, I never been on a bus tour, right? I had never gone on like a, you know, like the two things that I really are on my list, right? That I really want to do, technically three things, but I want to do a full US tour. I had one on the book. I had one scheduled, but COVID fucking took that shit out. I want to do a full US tour. I want to do a European tour. And damn, what was that third thing?
Danny, take notes.
Yeah, exactly.
We gotta go US and Europe. Come on, man. Come on, man.
US and Europe, and I guess a bus tour, like touring on a bus. You know what I mean? Like because I had ever done vans.
Crew. Yeah.
Like it was us like sandwiched in a damn van, and for a while it was actually like when we didn't have a van, it was my SUV, dude. We were just like towing the trailer and piled into my Acadia.
Damn.
So it's one of those things, dude, where it's like, you know, I would look at the bands that were in the buses or in the bandwagons, you know what I mean? And it's like, man, there's always going to be the next thing. And I think like the one thing I really wish I would have done more of when I was kind of coming up is just celebrate the wins. Celebrate where you're at, dude. It's one of those things where it's like, man, you know, we would have so many, like there were times when my old band Firmway would play, we would play in North Carolina, and man, we would have people drive, like we drove 3 hours to see you. That shit blows my mind, dude. That's
crazy.
3 hours, you got in your car, you hired a babysitter because you got kids. You hired a babysitter, you got in your car, you put gas in your car. You drove 3 hours. That's 150 miles, right?
Yeah.
170 miles, figure about 70 miles on the highway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You drove 150 miles to come see my band play at this dive bar. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Like, dude, and then you got to drive. When we're done and when the conversation's done, you got to get your ass back in the car and drive back, dude. Like, and it's just things like that where it's like, you know, I would celebrate those in the moment, but years later, it really hits you where it's like, damn, dude, like, because like as an adult now, I mean, I think of what that would look like for me to do in my own life, to drive 3 hours out of my own way to get a dog sitter, because I don't have kids, you know, to get a dog sitter, to drive 3 hours to go to a show and then come back. It's like, man, dude, like,
bro, with that being said, what would you tell your younger self?
Dude, just honestly, like I would tell my younger self that you need to literally enjoy every second of it, because not only does it not last forever, but it's always done quicker than you wish it could be or you wish it was, right? And just don't beat yourself up over things that in a year aren't going to matter, because, you know, the things that matter are the relationships that you make and maintain. You know, whether that's like musicians or other bands or venues or promoters, like all the above, relationships, right? Who, like when all is said and done, who are you still like keeping in touch with, right? And you know what I mean? Like, man, just like the nature of the beast, like I've burned bridges that I'm not proud of that I've burned, you know what I mean? And it's, you know, it's one of those, and I'm sure that, you know, maybe people feel that way towards me too. You know, there's no knowing, but it's one of those things where at the end of the day, man, like, you know, we're fortunate to be able to do this. Like, you know, out of all the times to be alive, dude, I could be a peasant in the dirt, but I'm, you know, I'm playing shows in bars, dude. Like it's really, you know, when you look at life and if that's what your life is, then you don't really have that, you know, it's really not that bad. It's not that bad, dude.
Not that bad. And
it's okay
to definitely be worse.
It's okay to want things, dude. It's okay to want more, but man, like just be humble and keep going, dude. That's what this is about. Enjoy where you're at. You know, that's what I would literally tell myself. That's what I tell myself today.
That's what I mean? Yeah, like, bro.
Yeah.
Turn the day around and make it your bitch.
Yeah, dude.
That's all it is. I mean, one day at a time, get after it, man. Tell me what's next for RJ, man.
Yeah, dude. So, dude, yeah, it's kind of funny because I feel like we're at a little bit of a crossroads, not in a bad way, but you know, obviously like my band breaking up was kind of a big shock. Like that was not something that I wanted. I don't think it was really anything that any of us wanted, but it was one of those things where when I moved, it became very hard to kind of keep it going bi-coastally. And it just kind of, we kind of started getting, a few of us, we got sour towards each other, you know what I mean? So it's like, we just kind of, you know what I mean? Like,
Bender.
Yeah, dude, when, and
Bender.
Yeah, and it's an unfortunate thing. You wish it were different, but so basically, that, it was one of those things where I had been in Fernway since I was a sophomore in high school.
Wow.
Right? So, like I said, Fernway was originally a band called Rescue Dawn, which was literally my brother Tanner, like he's 4 years younger than me, my brother playing the drums. My friend Jonah on the guitar and my friend Tommy on the bass, and then me. It was a 4-piece, right? And then we added a guy named Brett, and then, years later, right? Rescue Dawn was a band for probably, 2010 through 2017, 7 years we were a band. And then 2017, right, we were like kind of onto a new sound, and we were
It's a good ride, man.
It's a good ride, dude. But then we were, Fernway lasted probably until 2023 when I moved here, right? We released some music in 24, but basically, that kind of came to a halt, right? So like, I was like, damn, like, what the hell am I going to do? So basically, fast forward to now, man. It's kind of interesting. Like, I don't know if we're, Tay recently just like, so the job that she moved here for, right? I don't want to like, say too much, but basically, like, man, they're just like totally not on top of their game there. And they pretty much closed the whole department that she was in.
Oh, shit. That's
So, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, now I think both of our worlds, because me, it was the music world. And for her, it was this job. Like, we moved here to pursue those things. And now both of those bubbles have kind of popped in a sense. So now it's like, okay, well, where are we going? Well, where should we be? Right. So there's kind of, there's always the pull to move to LA. Like that's where I've had my sights on for a minute. I have so many friends from Buffalo that live there, but I would say, yeah. So for me, what's next, man, is, figuring out where I'm going to base myself out of, right? Cause whether we're either going to wind up going up into the Bay, to be closer to Panda, or we're going to go down to LA. Just to try to get in it, you know what I mean? Because that was always in my mind. It's one of those things where you didn't come this far just to get this far, right? And
no, trust me, that's the same deal with me when I finished when I came off the military. My wife is from here, but my goal was always to stay closer to LA, and to kind of like keep on honing in the area. And I mean, I got a lot of friends out there in LA too that are doing this in the daily basis, which is great. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Reality is different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude.
But we still gotta thrive to make that happen somehow, some shape and form. You know?
Oh
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
dude.
So it's only a matter of time. I mean, only time will tell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that we just gotta keep on just driving on and see what's up with the next thing. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, and basically, like, I mean, I've been writing music. But it's just about, I want to put a band together. I got to find the right, it comes back to chemistry. I'm at this point in my life where I'm kind of seasoned in a way where, no shade on younger musicians, but like a lot of the things that kind of go unspoken, you know what I mean? Like there are some things that go unspoken when you're seasoned like this.
Yeah, we talked about this before.
Yeah. And it's like, man, like, like,
yeah, younger musicians, some carry something called EGO.
That could be part of it. Yeah, that could really be part of it.
It's so they need to grow to let that shit go, because that's one of those things that will harm you as a great musician. No matter how good you are, if you let that thing hunger you over, forget it. You're not gonna accomplish anything. Being a good listening is part of it.
Oh, dude, I would rather play with the 5th best drummer who's a good dude than the best drummer who's a dick. Like, you know what I mean? Or that goes for like anyone on any instrument ever. Facts. Or videographer or
definitely.
But anything. And honestly, I've had to learn that lesson too. Like when I was a teenager, man, like I was kind of ruthless in the sense where like, you know, I know there's people that have met me briefly and are probably like, fuck that guy. You know what I mean? But like, you know, and hey, I'm sorry for that. You know what I mean? But like,
I mean, I know a lot of people that they're not really fond of me either. And I remember when I was a teacher too, I was like, man, Manny, I hated you. Like, you suck. Like, why? What did I do to you? Like, I don't even know you like that.
Right,
you
dude,
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
But I mean, you know, it's one of those. It's the trade of the game. So.
And I mean, dude, it's like, so basically, like, you know, my thought is, you know, what do I want my next 5 years to look like? I want to get, you know, I want to get way deeper into everything that I've been building my whole life to do, right? Which is performing, touring, recording, producing.
Right.
And honestly, like, you know, what that looks like, whether I move up, you know, wherever I'm based out of, right? I'm hoping to get a space, right? That, you know, I'm fortunate to have a space in my townhouse, right? But it's basically just a spare bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the ideal goal is to have a space, right?
Right.
Somewhere where, when I say space, I mean somewhere that you can leave drums and mics set up. And on the other side of the room, you can have other things set up, like a desk or guitars or photo stuff. You know what I mean? But space, right? Because that's the thing, you know. Yeah,
creative spaces are very important. And I mean,
they're huge. Dude. They're almost make or break, dude. Like,
yeah, definitely.
If I didn't have my townhouse, like, oh my God, dude.
That's it. That's it, man. Like, honestly. Dude. And it, you know, they might think, oh no, you got a man cave there. I was like, well, yes, but it's not only a man cave.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's a man cave. Yeah, I mean, yeah, dude. Like, and what, you know, if I was a woman, it'd be a woman cave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's and it's just like, yeah, dude. Like, if by man cave you mean a really dope space with no windows with a bunch of expensive gear that I've gone into debt for, then yes, you know. But like. But dude, I mean, honestly, like, you know, the point is that a creative space, like when you walk into a space, like you know, when you go so far into this, dude, like, you know, I can feel the creativity on my brain right now. Like basically what that feels like is it's almost a chaotic just vibration where it's like, man, and what that means, what does that mean? It means when I go into a space, I need to be able to go right to the drum kit and start playing that. I don't want to have to pull my mics out of the locker and set them up on the stand and burn an hour and a half where all that that creative jitterness has been spent. Right. You know what I mean? Like I need to, you know, my guitar is plugged in and the amp needs to be flipped on. You know what I mean? Like that is the, you know, a space, right? So that's a goal. I definitely want to put out a record. Like I've been writing songs, but kind of trying to find my voice, right? You know, I was I would say the primary songwriter of Fernway. Kind of one of the, you know, if not the main driving force, one of the main driving forces of that band and that sound. So I feel kind of like, you know, and I think that sound was pretty honed in for what it is. And I think that it's a sound that I really like, and it's a sound that I will continue to explore with the stuff that I'm doing, you know. But really it's just about finding, you know, maybe the right band or collective, and just about like putting in the time, you know what I mean? Life kind of gets in the way sometimes. My back is constantly going out.
Win everything anymore, but yeah, man. So talking about finding, bro, let's close it in, man. How can people find you?
Oh, dude. I mean, I'm most active on my Instagram, just at RJ DeMarco. But I have a TikTok. It's the same thing, at RJ DeMarco. You can find me on Facebook, at RJ DeMarco. If you want to listen to my old band, Fernway, we're on all the streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, YouTube.
Everything.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yo, also, if you want to hire him for wedding, quinceañeras, you know, birthday, wineries, clubs, anything, this guy does live looping, like, you know, kind of like Ed Sheeran used to do back in the day. Yeah, the same thing. Yeah. The same thing, but better. Yeah.
So. And you can also book me, right? This is a new thing too. You can book me for engineering right from the Panda Studios website too. So just there, thepandastudios.com, go to the engineers, and I'm there.
Well, RJ, it's been a great talk, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm excited that you were here, man. And I mean, we'll see if we catch a little vibe and do something real quick. And you guys got to stay tuned. So, hey, stay creative. Oh, wait. How is it? So like I always say, stay creative, stay consistent, and be teachable. We'll catch you on the next time, okay?
Hell yeah, man.